usually when we think about like we look at someone else's situation, let's say 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 100 years ago, we naturally look at the things that we have in common. So the first thing is like, okay, I got a job, they got a job. So when we look at like wage and income, because oppression comes in multiple forms, right? And so, was there wage inequality around this time? Like how did folks make money in Birmingham?
Wow, major wage, difference between the races. But this being a steel town, that was a means for a lot of people to get a good, working job and make some good money. But as a black person, you only got what they call helper wages. So you might have been doing machinist work, but instead of getting paid as a machinist, you get paid as a machinist helper. And so it was means and ways that they kept African Americans from being able to make those same type of wages. And if you were a black woman at this time, oh man, it was it was even worse. But one of the things that Birmingham and some other parts in the South, but Birmingham was known for was also the convict leasing. And because they were able to leverage the convict leasing system, it was a means for them to keep working folks that weren't involved in the criminal justice system from being able to make a living wage.
So convict leasing. So let's talk about one of the ways in which someone would be under that type of servitude. So let's say you're walking down the street.
Right.
It's 9:30 in the morning.
Right.
Like, you know what? Woke up. Let's say you went on a jog around the block, right? Something simple. You finishing up your jog. You're like, all right, let me go to a local grocery store or something like that. You are literally walking down the street, right? And let's just say you got a melon account like mine, and you got a little chocolate to you, right? And there was someone across the street that does not look like you. Oh, you may be on the same sidewalk. You scoot over to the side, you continue to walk. Could that get you in jail? Like, could you get locked up for that? What if you just looked at him? Like,
so it's we learned in school, one of the things that I did learn in school at some point. I relearned it here at the Institute, but you had two functions of how segregation, Jim Crow laws and things work. De jure, de facto. De jure were things that were actual by law.
Okay.
De facto were things that were by custom. And so a lot of times the things that were by custom could get you in trouble, but they wouldn't get the law involved. So those are the lynchings. Those are the people who just disappear. You never see them again, kind of things.
Right.
The de jure things that were actually by law, those were things like vagrancy. Okay, so vagrancy is like you could be walking down the street or whatever, and a police officer rolls up on you and stops you and asks you to pull out some money. If you don't have any money in your pocket, a particular amount of money in your pocket, they considered you without a job. You were considered a vagrant, and then they would railroad you through the system.
Right.
Those people that got railroaded through those systems like that also end up disappearing.
Yeah.
A lot of times wives looking for their husbands. We always hear the stories. My daddy went out for a pack of cigarettes. We always think that person went. So I'm not saying that those things didn't happen.
Right.
But these things happen as well.
Right.
I went to the store for a pack of cigarettes, and they, he didn't come back. It's a very good documentary and book called Slavery by Another Name that talks about this. And these people would turn up missing. These owners of these mines or these foremen or whatever would go to these wardens or these jails, and they would say, let me get 15 guys, pay a certain fee per head, and then take them and work them in these mines and these mills and these things in this area. And that was a way for them to get cheap labor because of that clause in the 13th Amendment.
Yeah.
Right? 13th Amendment says that slavery is abolished unless as punishment for a crime. They use it's in the Constitution.
Yeah.
They use that as that clause as a means to be able to do this and get cheap labor again.
Right.
And so Birmingham was notorious for that. And so these people made a lot of money by not having to pay out a lot of labor
and wages.